Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So this one's a continuation of my Batch H video that went up about a week ago. And like I mentioned before, we're going to follow up on it this week and talk about the completion of Bobby's transformation and also get into more of what Dr. Alba was working on at Weapon X. And we'll get into that in just a minute. But for those of you who haven't seen that video, I got a link up top here you can hit to go back and watch it, or just go down in the description. I'll have a link there as well too. And that way you'll be all caught up. But the main gist of things is that Weapon X is back up and running. They got new locations all across the country, but the main location that this story focuses on is in Texas. And that's where Reverend Stryker has Dr. Alba doing all of her experiments on the volunteers from the Church of Human Potential. And that church was just a cover-up. For the most part, it was just a draft camp for volunteers that would later be recruited for experimentation if they were deemed as true believers. And these candidates that were selected by Stryker would later on be split up to either be transformed into an adamantium android that would hunt down mutants, or they would go to the Weapon H program to either be experimented on for research towards the project, or if they seem to be a more promising candidate that will come out successful. And so right here I want to clear up something from the last video, because reading through the comments I could see there was a bit of confusion, and that was my fault because at the end I kind of brushed through the second Hulk, and when I got to the second one I was still calling him Bobby when it's a whole different person altogether. So now as far as your Batch H Alpha and your Beta, Bobby, who we broke down in the last video, he's H Beta, and for the most part he went through the same process as a lot of the others who were recruited through Stryker, just with a better result at the end. But now the process between H Beta and H Alpha were very different between one another. So now H Alpha's procedure was one that Dr. Alba was keeping pretty close to the vest. And he's the one that Dr. Alba had mentioned is not a true believer. He didn't meet Stryker or go through any of that process either. And it was also H Alpha that she was referring to, saying that he's a lot like Wolverine, but with more discipline and control. And it's a real good chance that we'll see more of that in next month's issue of Totally Awesome Hulk, because when H Alpha comes out from his tube, I believe it's going to be more of a Wolverine-like character. Because even though these guys have samples from both, we're not really given an exact recipe of how much is sampled from either one of these guys. And I'm sure it's safe to say that they put as much Hulk that they could in either one. But from what it shows us about how the procedure works, it seems to be that the closer that the host matches to the sample of whichever mutant that it is, the more successful that bonding process is. And I'll probably wait till both Beta and Alpha are revealed before I get into that. But next I want to talk about how Cho figured out how to get to that Texas location. Because when he realized the cyborg attack was really a Hulk blood heist, he did his own investigation from the one he brought back. He figured out his identity and found out that his brother was heading to a similar type of facility. And also with tracking different shipping manifests, it all pointed down to Texas. And it wasn't too far from where they tried to stop him from going in the first place. And when they get there, man, they just pull up to the front gate. And this is mainly Cho's idea, because he wants to do this with the least amount of casualties as possible. And he's really like the only person in the car that feels that way, if you couldn't tell from just looking here. But Cho wants to take the route of less resistance because he wants to save Bobby. Domino, on the other hand, felt different. She wanted to blow up the facility from the inside out. But when Cho took the bomb from her that she wanted to use, Sabretooth leaps out at Cho to snatch the bomb back, and he gets his ass whooped. Like, how did he imagine that going down in his mind? And those of you that have been rocking with me for a minute, y'all already know Sabretooth catching that L all day. And what trips me out is that Domino feels bad. So she's like, Warpath, we're like a wolf pack. You're supposed to help him out. And he just turns into National Geographic and he like, well, you know, wolves really don't work that way. And in the background, Sabretooth just getting his ass dragged all throughout the ship. So then she turns to Logan asking him to help, kind of like a kid, when you're asking your siblings to stop fighting. And so then Sabretooth does what he thinks to be a clever move, and he throws Hulk out of his own ship, still holding the bomb, by the way. And while Hulk's falling thousands of feet to the ground, we see Sabretooth has the detonator and he sets it off, which was real slick, I ain't gonna lie. Like, he gets a pair to deal with it shades for that one. But ironically, seconds later, he has to deal with it, because Cho jumps all the way back up and into the ship, tearing through the door he was just kicked out of. And it was at this moment that he knew. Nah, I ain't gonna do it again. But y'all already know what it is. But let's freeze frame here for a second. Like right here, Sabretooth is terrified. And rightfully so. But when I look at this, I think of the main reason that I think the Hulk is frightening. And it's not just his raw strength alone, but how you that big and that fast? It's like, come on, man, pick one. But once he gets back on the ship, he just jackhammers Sabretooth's face into the ground. And this moment might come back later, it might not. But Logan mentions that Cho looked like the old Hulk when he busts through there and started pounding on Victor. And here, like many times before, Cho will deny it and say he has it under control. But I'm hoping when it gets to the point next month where he has to face Batch H Alpha, that we have to see him lose control a little bit, because ever since he's absorbed the Hulk from Banner, like once in a blue moon, we'll kind of get little hints that the Hulk's consciousness is still in there somewhere. But yeah, that's how they ended up here, taking the whole front door route. And since Sabretooth got his ass beat, he got to sit in the back seat. And so even though everybody's pretty much agreed to disagree for the most part, Cho's still being very cautious because he knows he's rolling with some killers and they're gonna do what they feel like they need to do. And it's mainly Sabretooth, Deathstrike, and Domino who are like, we just need to go down there and end everybody. Logan, on the other hand, was a little more optimistic because to him, the whole idea of this being a rescue mission was very conditional. Because he told Cho, depending on how far they are with Bobby, at that point in time, he will make the decision whether he's gonna save him or not. But as they're making their way down to the different levels, Cho gave everybody headgear so they could identify what was fully a machine and which one of these robots still had some human in them. But while they're making their way down and fighting through all the androids and cyborgs, Dr. Alba doesn't budge. And she's having this conversation with Stryker remotely, and he's telling her, like, if you don't leave now, they're gonna kill you. But she's not gonna leave now because this is her life's work, and she's highly confident that this time is successful. And as the team makes their way closer, she's just standing there next to the timer watching and waiting on the clock for Batch H to come out. So like one room away, they run into like all the other Hulks that are like not as successful. I mean, these are more like your soft batch Hulks, but still there are a lot of these guys in there and their abilities are a bit different from one another. So still it's like no easy feat. But because they have so many of these guys they gotta go through, it buys Dr. Alba more time to get Batch H beta ready. And when they find where she's at in Vat H, I can't help but think it's like they're putting an H on every door that leads to the way of where she's at. But when they get there, Warpath lifts the door open because he mad strong like that. But this part right here specifically makes me want to throw out suggestions to why the Weapon X program would want to sample Warpath. And so just to put it out there, I'm no Warpath expert by any means, but Cable did mention in an issue of X-Force about Warpath getting stronger and stronger. And of course that was in reference of him gaining strength over time, but the amount of strength he gained in comparison was staggering. He's also capable of flight to a certain extent, and he shows that in this same series of Weapon X where he takes down an unmanned drone. But there's more examples of this like in X-Force issues, where most of the time you'll see him jumping from like a high distance and he doesn't need like a jetpack or anything like that. And by no means is this anything like Superman where he can just go up and away and take off, but it's been one of those gray areas that I just have this feeling they're gonna mix this in with Batch H, either alpha or beta, if not both. But yeah, those things along with his tracking abilities and Apache Shaman, I'm sure that Dr. Alba had specific intentions on using those and mixing them with her creations. But as soon as Warpath gets the door open for Vat H, H beta breaks out and we get our first look at him. And ugly ain't even the word. Man, like Toxic Avenger, you are the father. And his mouth, man, looking crazy. Like he ain't got no lips, it just gums and teeth taking turns in there. But this first look is how the most recent comic ends. And from this one image we have, it's almost like his body is a cyborg, part organic and part machine. But this first look is really all we got until next month where H Alpha wakes up. But I'm gonna end this one here, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and how you guys feel about Cho going up against this guy and also having to deal with H Alpha. Because I also believe that H Alpha is gonna be a different color as well too, just to kind of keep it different between him, Beta, and Cho all going up against each other. And we'll see all that next month. But I hope you guys learned a valuable lesson here. Like if some scientist walks up to you and say, hey, we're gonna turn you into a robot, I just want you to know that that doesn't always turn out to be as cool as it sounds. Matter of fact, I don't think there's ever been an instance where that was as cool as it sounds. At least not in real life. Alright, but thanks again guys for checking out another video. Be sure to subscribe so you can catch every spill every week. And if you'd like to help your boy out, I got a link up top to my Patreon page. And all the Patreon giveaways will start about this time next month. And I'll post those updates on the Patreon page as we get closer. But I'm gonna wrap it up here for this one, guys. I'll holler at you down in the comments. And we'll do it again next time. Alright, later.